The hangar was huge, filled with the newest war machines from across the galaxy. Sleek alien hovercraft hummed softly as their anti-gravity engines floated them above the ground. Tall mechs with glowing armor stood ready, their weapons gleaming. Under bright lights, and in the middle of it all, sat a tank. Not just any tank, an old Earth tank. Its armor was dented, its paint faded to dull green. The treads were thick with scratches. It looked like something pulled out of a museum. The aliens noticed it immediately. Laughter started at one corner of the hangar, then spread quickly. "Is that a human war machine?" one alien officer asked, his voice dripping with disbelief. His 4 eyes scanned the rusty surface. "It looks prehistoric." Another alien, wearing a long ceremonial cloak, chuckled. "I think humans brought their farming equipment by mistake." They laughed louder. Some even took pictures. The sound echoed in the massive hangar, cruel, mocking, certain. But one man didn't laugh. Captain Rourke stood beside the tank, his hands behind his back. He wore a simple black Earth military uniform. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp, cold steel in human form. He watched the aliens laugh, as if measuring every face, every insult. Inside the tank, the crew sat silently. Sergeant Holt, the gunner, looked up through the hatch. "They really think we're a joke," Holt muttered. Rourke's voice was steady. "Let them think. It'll make what comes next hit harder." The Galactic Military Expo was an annual event where every faction showed off its newest and deadliest machines. Combat demonstrations were the highlight, friendly war games that often decided contracts worth billions. The alien host faction had challenged Earth to bring their best machine for a live combat test. The galaxy expected a sleek a railgun platform, maybe a combat mech. Instead, Earth brought this dot. An alien commander strolled toward Rourke, his armor gleaming silver. "Captain, I must thank you," he said with a mocking smile. "It has been many cycles since we've had such entertainment at the expo." Rourke didn't move. "Glad to amuse you," he replied flatly. The alien commander tilted his head. "Tell me, do you expect that antique to survive even 1 minute in the arena?" Rourke's gaze didn't waver. "1 minute will be more than enough." The alien blinked, unsure if he'd heard correctly. Around them, the crowd swelled. More alien dignitaries, reporters, and soldiers gathered to get a closer look at the relic. Holographic news drones floated overhead, broadcasting live to hundreds of worlds. A small alien child pointed at the tank and giggled. "It's so slow. Why does it have wheels on its feet?" Her father smirked. "Because humans haven't evolved past the ground." Inside the tank, Corporal Diaz, the driver, gripped the steering controls. "I don't like this," he muttered. "You don't have to like it," Sergeant Holt said. "You just have to drive." Rourke placed his hand on the tank's armor, feeling the vibration from its dormant engine. It was more than a machine to him. This tank had history. It had fought in real wars, on real battlefields, where every shot counted and every inch of movement was survival. Beneath its old frame, it had been rebuilt in secret, its true power hidden under layers of history and steel. The announcer's voice boomed through the hangar. "Combat demonstration begins in 10 minutes. Participants, prepare your machines." Alien crews rushed to their vehicles, powering up gleaming war mechs and hover tanks. Energy shields crackled to life. Plasma cannons warmed up with a low hum. The human crew remained still. Rourke leaned into the open hatch and spoke to his team. "This is not about the expo. This is about respect. They think we're weak. They think Earth is old, slow, and finished. They're wrong. When the gates open, you don't just fight, you show them what humans build for. Holt grinned. Understood, sir. Diaz smirked. Let's make them choke on their words. As the human crew climbed in, the alien laughter continued outside. Some tried to mimic the sound of an engine failing. Others pretended to push the tank as if it couldn't move on its own. Rourke ignored them. He climbed onto the tank, scanning the hangar one last time. His gaze locked on the alien commander. "You're going to remember this day," Rourke said quietly, almost to himself. The commander raised an eyebrow, confused. Then the tank's engine roared to life. It wasn't a gentle start. It was a deep, metallic growl, shaking the floor beneath everyone's feet. The laughter faltered. A few aliens frowned. The sound was wrong, too powerful for such an old frame. Smoke hissed from the exhaust, but the smell was sharp and clean, not the oily stink of an ancient engine. Rourke dropped into the commander's seat. All systems green. Green across the board. Halt. Replied. Diaz gripped the controls. "She's hungry, Captain." The hangar's massive gates began to open, revealing the arena outside, a sprawling battlefield of ruined buildings, rocky ridges, and open plains. The alien mechs powered forward, confident. The human tank rolled slowly toward the light, each tread crushing the floor with a heavy clank dot in the stands. Thousands of alien spectators leaned forward, eager to watch Earth's humiliation. Inside the tank, Rourke's voice was calm. "Remember, they expect a relic. They're not ready for what's coming." The announcer's voice thundered again. "Combat demonstration begin." The alien war machines surged ahead. The human tank waited, and in that tense, breathless pause, a strange feeling rippled through the crowd. The first spark of doubt. The alien war machines didn't wait. The moment the announcer's voice faded, 3 mechs charged forward, their glowing armor slicing through the dusty air. Behind them, 2 sleek hover tanks floated above the ground, engines whining like angry insects. Plasma turrets swiveled toward the human tank, ready to burn it into scrap before it even crossed the arena floor in the stands. Alien spectators leaned forward with grins. This was going to be quick. Inside the Relic, Captain Rourke's eyes were fixed on the targeting display. His voice was calm, almost casual. "Hold position." Corporal Diaz hesitated. "Sir, they're closing in fast." "Hold," Rourke repeated. The ground shook as the mech sprinted closer. One raised its arm, revealing a crackling energy cannon. Blue light began to build at its core. In the stands, a cheer went up. "Now," Rourke said. Sergeant Holt's finger pressed the trigger. The tank's main gun fired, not a slow, lumbering shot like the aliens expected, but a brutal, thunderous blast that kicked dust high into the air. The recoil slammed through the treads, rattling bolts, and sending a shockwave through the arena floor. The shell ripped through the air faster than the crowd could follow. A heartbeat later, the lead mech's torso exploded in a shower of sparks and molten metal. Pieces rained down, clanging against the arena's steel barricades. The alien cheers turned into gasps. "Target 2, Rourke ordered. Before the wreckage even hit the ground, Holt fired again. The second mech's shield flared. Once, then collapsed like glass under a hammer. The round punched straight through its chest and detonated inside, ripping the machine apart from within. One of the alien commanders in the VIP stand shot to his feet, shouting into a CUM device. His face was pale. They're not supposed to have that kind of firepower. But the human tank was just getting started. The hover tanks, still floating above the dust, opened fire with rapid plasma bursts. Glowing spheres streaked across the arena, striking the ground where the tank had been seconds earlier. Diaz grinned, turning the wheel hard. Let's dance. The Relic moved, and it moved fast. Not as fast as a hovercraft, but far quicker than any old tank should. It rolled over broken walls and crushed debris without slowing down, treads biting deep into the dirt. Lock right target, Rourke ordered. Holt swiveled the turret. Locked. Send it. Another thunderclap shook the arena. The shell hit the hover tank dead center. Its energy field shimmered violently, then burst apart, sending the alien craft spinning into the dirt with a high-pitched screech. The crowd roared in shock. Some aliens were shouting in disbelief. Others recording every moment on their HOLO- devices. In the control room overlooking the arena, the alien match overseer leaned toward the microphone. Disabled that feed, he barked. A junior tech stammered. Sir, the feed is already being broadcast across 300 channels. We can't stop it. Meanwhile, the last hover tank tried to retreat, gliding backward to gain distance, but Rourke was already watching it through the scope. Diaz, line me up, he said. The driver pushed the throttle, closing the gap. The alien pilot panicked, firing wildly. Plasma bolts scorched the ground near the tank, but none hit. Clear shot, Holt called. Rourke didn't smile. He didn't need to. End it. The shell slammed into the hover tank's side. The explosion was so loud it rattled. The stands. A wall of flame and smoke rolled upward, briefly blocking the view of the battlefield. When the smoke cleared, only the human tank remained in motion. For alien war machines, all destroyed in less than 2 minutes, the arena was silent. Then a slow murmur began to spread. It wasn't cheering. It wasn't laughter. It was something new, the sound of respect mixed with fear. Inside the tank, Diaz let out a low whistle that felt good. Holt reloaded the main gun. They're going to throw something bigger at us next. Rourke adjusted his headset. Good. We didn't come here for an easy fight. Up in the alien commander's box, a tall, armored figure stood. His armor was black and gold, his eyes burning with rage. This was Warlord. Zereth, champion of the host faction. Without looking away from the tank, he spoke to his officers. Send in the Titan squad. The officers froze. Sir, that's not protocol. Do it, Zereth growled. Now, far across the arena, reinforced gates slid open. The ground trembled as 3 massive machines stepped forward, each twice the size of the mechs destroyed earlier. Their armor shimmered with adaptive camouflage, blending with the ruins behind them. Heavy plasma cannons jutted from their shoulders, and their hands gripped energy blades taller than a human dot. In the human tank, the crew saw them appear. Holt muttered, Well, they don't look happy. Rourke's voice was steady. They shouldn't be. The Titan squad began to spread out, circling the tank. One of them flickered in and out of sight, its stealth systems making it vanish for seconds at a time. The crowd erupted in cheers again, certain this was the end of Earth's little stunt. Diaz tightened his grip on the controls. Orders, Captain. Rourke's eyes narrowed. We're going to show them something they've never seen. He pressed a switch on his console. The tank's hull shifted slightly, panels sliding back to reveal additional weapon ports. Hidden missile pods emerged from the sides, each one loaded and ready. The crew braced themselves. "On my mark," Rourke said. The Titan squad closed in. Energy blades hummed. Plasma cannons charged. The crowd's excitement reached a fever pitch. And then the tank roared again, louder than before, as missiles streaked into the air. The first Titan took 2 hits to the chest, its armor tearing open as it crashed into the dirt. The second tried to dodge, but a shell from the main gun punched straight through its helmet, silencing it instantly. The third Titan stopped moving altogether. It stared at the human tank, and then, slowly, began to back away. In the stands, there was no laughter left, only silence, and the faint sound of fear. The smoke from the destroyed Titans still hung over the battlefield. Shards of alien armor lay scattered across the arena floor. The Relic tank stood alone, engine rumbling like a beast that wasn't finished hunting. But up in the VIP stand, Warlord Zereth was far from beaten. He slammed his gauntleted fist on the railing, the sound echoing through the observation deck. "Enough of this embarrassment," he growled to his generals. "Activate Omega Protocol." A nervous murmur passed between the alien officers. One of them leaned in. "Warlord, Omega Protocol is for war, not exhibitions. The Council will." "The Council isn't here," Zereth snapped, his voice sharp as a blade. "And by the time they hear of this, the humans will be dust." The officer bowed and relayed the command. In the control room, alarms blared. Massive steel gates at the far side of the arena began to grind open. The ground shuddered as something large moved behind them. Inside the tank, Sergeant Holt adjusted his scope, trying to see through the dust. "Captain, we've got movement." Rourke didn't need the warning. He could feel the air shift. From the shadows emerged a single machine, far larger than anything the humans had faced so far. Its legs were like towers, its body plated in black alloy that shimmered as if alive. 2 massive cannons protruded from its shoulders, glowing with a dangerous red light. The crowd erupted in cheers. This was the Warlord's pride, a walking fortress used only in full-scale planetary assaults. Corporal Diaz whistled low. "That thing's big." "It's more than big," Holt said, locking the scope. "Its armor is adaptive. Every hit makes it tougher." Rourke's voice stayed calm, but his grip on the controls tightened. "Then we don't give it time to adapt." The Obliterator moved with surprising speed for its size. Each step cracked the ground beneath it. It raised one shoulder cannon and fired. The beam sliced through the air, hitting a ruined building just meters from the tank. The explosion was so loud that it rattled the crew's teeth. Diaz swerved hard. "We take a hit from that, we're done." "Stay low, keep moving," Rourke ordered. The tank roared forward, weaving between debris piles. The Obliterator tracked them, each cannon blast missing by seconds. The crowd watched in breathless silence now. No laughter, no taunts, just the tension of a fight that had gone far beyond a demonstration. Holt fired the main gun. The shell slammed into the giant's leg, making it stagger. But instead of tearing through, the alloy seemed to absorb some of the impact, glowing briefly before fading. "Armor's learning already," Holt muttered. Rourke's eyes flicked to a side console. "Diaz, get us to that ridge." "Holt, load." High-velocity penetrator. The crew worked fast. The tank surged toward a rocky rise, the Obliterator's heavy footsteps pounding closer behind them. Another beam scorched the ground, showering them in molten dirt. They reached the ridge. Rourke's plan became clear. From this angle, the giant's neck joint, the one place the adaptive armor might be weakest, was exposed. Now, Rourke barked. Holt fired. The penetrator shell screamed across the battlefield and struck the joint. Sparks burst out, followed by a grinding roar from the giant. Its head jerked sideways, one of its shoulder cannons faltering. The crowd gasped, but the obliterator wasn't finished. It turned its full attention to the tank, charging forward with earth-shaking steps. "Brace," Diaz yelled. The massive machine swung one of its arms like a club. The blow hit the ground just meters from the tank, sending them skidding sideways. Rourke's voice cut through the chaos. "Smoke, now." Diaz hit the release. Thick clouds of black smoke billowed out, hiding the tank completely. From the stands, it looked like the humans had vanished. The obliterator scanned the haze, its sensors flickering. Inside the smoke, Rourke spoke low. "We're going for the core, Diaz. Take us under it." The tank moved in total silence, treads crunching over broken stone. They emerged right beneath the obliterator's massive frame. "Fire everything we've got," Rourke ordered. Missiles launched point blank into the machine's underbelly. The main gun roared again, this time loaded with an explosive sabot round. The impact was devastating. A chain of explosions ripped up through the obliterator's chest. Flames burst out of vents along its sides. The giant staggered back, one leg buckling. The crowd screamed, some in excitement, others in pure fear. In the VIP box, Warlord Zareth gripped the railing so hard that it cracked under his fingers. The obliterator tried one last desperate strike, but the damage was too severe. With a final metallic roar, it toppled backward, crashing into the arena floor with an earth-shaking boom. The tank rolled out from the smoke, armor scorched but intact. In the silence that followed, the announcer's voice trembled. "The human relic has destroyed the Warlord's champion." The camera drone zoomed in on Rourke's face. His expression didn't change. He simply raised the tank's main gun toward the VIP box, not firing, just pointing, as if to say, "You're next." Zareth's eyes narrowed. "This is no longer an exhibition," he growled. "This is war." The dust from the fallen obliterator still hung thick in the arena air, swirling in slow, heavy clouds. The wreck lay on its back like a broken monument, flames licking from its shattered chest. The crowd remained silent, not because they respected the humans, but because they didn't understand how this had happened. Warlord Zareth understood all too well, and he wasn't going to let it stand. He turned to his generals. "No more limits. Release the arena locks." One of the alien aides hesitated. "Sir, that would mean..." "It means everything, now." Across the stadium, huge gates that had remained sealed for decades began to grind open. The sound alone made the ground tremble. Behind them, shadows moved too many to count. From the tank's cockpit, Sergeant Holt adjusted the scope. "Captain, we've got a problem." Rourke didn't answer immediately. He was watching the shapes pour into the arena. Dozens of mechs, hovercraft, and heavy walkers marched out in formation. Their armor glistened under the floodlights, and their weapons gleamed like the teeth of predators, and they just kept coming in the stands. The crowd erupted into a deafening roar. Finally they thought the relic would be buried. "Corporal," Diaz whistled low. "That's an army," Holt muttered. "They're sending a full war unit into what's supposed to be a game." Rock's voice was quiet, but it carried weight. "Good. Now the whole galaxy will see what happens when you corner Earth. The alien forces spread out, surrounding the tank on all sides. In the center of the enemy formation, towering above them all, a siege mech with twin rotary cannons turned its gaze toward the humans. A voice thundered across the arena, amplified so everyone could hear. It was Zereth himself. "Humans," he declared, "you have fought well for your kind, but your time ends here. You will not leave this arena alive." Inside the tank, Holt smirked. "He sounds confident. Confidence doesn't stop shells." Rourke replied, "Diaz, move us to the east wall." Holt, load. Alternating Sabot and he. The enemy opened fire. Plasma bolts, railgun slugs, and missile trails streaked toward the tank. Diaz swerved hard, treads grinding over shattered stone. Explosions ripped up the ground just behind them, showering the hull with debris. Holt fired. Back, the sabot round punched straight through a hovercraft, splitting it in half. Before it hit the dirt, an he shell exploded inside a mech, sending it crashing into two others. The crowd was screaming now, some cheering, others panicking. Drone cameras zoomed in on every hit, broadcasting to every major system in the galaxy. Zereth's voice returned, dripping with fury. "All units, crush them." The alien wall closed in, but the tank didn't slow. Diaz gunned the engine, driving straight toward the siege mech in the center. Its rotary cannons spun to life, spitting metal and plasma. The tank's armor screamed. Under the barrage, sparks and scorches marking every impact. Rourke's voice stayed calm. Closer, Diaz gritted his teeth and pushed forward. At 50 meters, Holt fired a sabot round into the mech's left cannon. It exploded in a flash of blue fire. The siege mech staggered, and the tank's second shot tore through its knee joint, sending it crashing to the ground. The alien lines faltered. In the chaos, the tank surged forward, smashing through lighter vehicles, treads grinding their hulls into scrap. From orbit, the broadcast feeds lit up with reactions alien. Commentators shouting in disbelief, human analysts whispering, "They're not supposed to win this." Then the tank did something no one expected. Panels on its sides opened again, revealing more hidden weapon systems, drone launchers. For small, fast-attack drones shot into the air, circling above like angry hornets. They began dropping precision microbombs into enemy ranks, turning the tight formation into a chaotic mess. Holt grinned. "Oh, they really didn't see that coming." Rourke said nothing. His focus was locked on the eastern wall and the giant holoscreens showing the battle to the galaxy. Every alien leader watching would see the same thing, a single human tank tearing through a force meant to wipe it out. The enemy tried to regroup, but the tank didn't give them the chance. Shells, missiles, drones, the battlefield lit up with fire and steel. Finally, the last of the light vehicles exploded in a plume of flame. The mechs, realizing their numbers were thinning, began to retreat toward the gates they had entered from, and then it happened. The tank's main gun fired again, but this time the sound was different, louder, deeper. It echoed off the arena walls, off the metal stands, off the very bones of the structure. It wasn't just a shot, it was a roar. The sound rolled through the crowd, through the streets outside, through the com feeds of every ship in orbit. In distant systems, alien. Civilians watching the broadcast froze. On mining colonies, workers looked up from their tools. In military command rooms, light years away, generals leaned toward their screens. It was the sound of something ancient, not a relic of the past, but the echo of every war humanity had ever fought, carried forward in steel and fire. The alien. Survivors fled. The arena floor was a graveyard of twisted metal and burning wreckage. Rourke keyed the external comms, his voice calm but heavy with meaning. This is what you called a relic. This is what you laughed at. Remember this sound. The engine rumbled, the main gun lowered, and the tank rolled forward through the wreckage. Slow, unstoppable, a living symbol of defiance in the VIP box. Zereth stood frozen, his jaw tight. He had thrown everything at them, and failed. The roar of the tank's last shot was already spreading across the stars, and with it, a message the galaxy would never forget. Asterisk, the battlefield was quiet now. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, the heavy, suffocating quiet that follows violence. The arena floor was a graveyard of alien machines, their twisted frames still smoking. Fires flickered in the wreckage, casting shadows over the silent crowd. The relic tank stood in the center, its armor scorched, its paint blackened, its treads coated in ash and dust. And yet it stood. Inside, the crew sat in stillness, listening to the faint hum of the engine. The adrenaline had not yet faded. Every heartbeat seemed to echo in their ears. Corporal Diaz broke the silence first. We actually did it. Sergeant Holt leaned back in his seat, exhaling slowly. We didn't just do it. We buried their pride in the dirt. Captain Rourke didn't speak right away. His eyes scanned the wreckage outside, but his mind was elsewhere, already thinking about what this meant beyond the arena walls. Up in the VIP box, Warlord Zereth hadn't moved. His face was pale beneath his dark skin. The crowd around him, once loud and mocking, sat frozen. Some couldn't look at the humans. Others stared openly, their expressions shifting from disbelief to something closer to fear. The announcer's voice, usually full of energy, was trembling. Combat demonstration concluded. Victory to Earth. The words echoed through the arena, but no one cheered. And then, something unexpected. One alien, a young officer from a distant system, stood from his seat and clapped once. The sound was sharp in the silence. Then another joined in, and another. Soon, scattered applause echoed through the stands, hesitant but growing. Not everyone clapped. Many alien leaders remained stiff and silent, but the sound was there. Respect, however grudging, was breaking through the walls of arrogance. Keyed the tank's external speakers. His voice was calm, steady, but every word carried weight. You called it a relic. You thought it was old, weak, slow. You thought we were finished. Now you know. Earth doesn't build for show. We build for survival. And survival doesn't age. His words carried through the arena, out into the broadcast streams, and across the galaxy. On distant colonies, humans watching the feed stood taller. In alien cities, civilians whispered to one another, and in military command centers, officers began to rethink everything they thought they knew about humanity. Zereth finally rose from his seat. His eyes locked on Rourke, a silent promise in his gaze. This wasn't over. Then, without a word, he turned and left the arena. Inside the tank, Holt chuckled. Guess we ruined his day. Rourke gave the faintest hint of a smile. Good. They rolled forward, treads crushing the debris underfoot, heading toward the hangar. As they passed the wreck of the Obliterator, Diaz slowed. You think they'll try this again? Rourke's voice was low. Oh, they'll try. And next time, They'll bring even more. Holt tightened his grip on the controls. Good. I like giving them bad memories. When they reached the hangar, Earth's small, the delegation was waiting. There weren't many of them, just a handful of officers and engineers, but their faces were lit with pride. One of the engineers, an older woman with grease still on her hands, ran her fingers along the tank's side. Knew you'd hold. Together, old girl, she whispered. Reporters swarmed the hangar entrance, shouting questions. Holocameras flashed, but Rourke ignored them all. He climbed down from the tank, boots hitting the floor with a heavy thud, and simply said, "Debrief." In 1 hour, then he turned and walked away. The tank itself was moved to a separate bay for inspection. Mechanics and tech crews circled it, whispering about the hidden systems and the unexpected power it had shown. Some aliens, curious despite themselves, came to see it up close. Most stayed at a cautious distance, as if the machine might roar to life again and tear through them. Hours later, in a quiet briefing room, Rourke sat with his crew. The lights were dim, the air heavy with the smell of metal and oil. On the wall, a live feed showed Galactic news coverage. Every major network was replaying the battle, some in awe, others in outrage. Diaz pointed at one screen. "Look at that. They're calling us the tank that shook the stars." Holt smirked. "Not bad. I've had worse nicknames." Rourke didn't smile this time. His voice was steady. This wasn't just a fight. It was a message. They'll think twice before underestimating humans again. There was a pause. Then Rourke added, more quietly, "But they'll also be planning their revenge. We need to be ready." Outside, in the wider galaxy, the impact was already unfolding. Small human colonies received messages of congratulations from unlikely alien allies. Trade deals that had been stalled for years suddenly moved forward, and in some systems, military fleets quietly began updating their threat assessments for Earth, moving humanity from low risk to high threat. Back in the arena, the wreckage remained untouched for days. Visitors came from across the sector to see where the Relic had made its stand. Some came to scoff, others came to pay silent respect, and in the middle of all those burned out machines, one truth lingered like the echo of a gunshot. The galaxy had laughed at humanity's old tank, but after that day, they would never laugh again.